The gun was pointed at Yuli's chest. She stood frozen small, shaking, but not backing down. Behind her, Ryan stood with his hands raised. "Don't touch her," he said calmly, but his voice shook with rage. "She's not your experiment. She's a child." 3 men in black armor stood around them. The symbol of Terran Trade Command glowed on their suits. Cold faces. Cold hearts. The lead soldier didn't blink. "Orders are clear. All native. Subjects are to be collected for study. That includes the girl." Ryan stepped forward slightly. "She has a name. Her name is Yuli." Yuli turned her head, eyes wide. That was the first time she had heard her name spoken like that. With love. Soldier raised his weapon higher. But Ryan didn't move. He simply said, "You'll have to shoot me first." Silence fell. The soldier's finger twitched near the trigger. Then something unexpected happened. Yuli moved in front of Ryan. She held out her tiny arms like a shield. Tears in her eyes. "I'm not scared," she said clearly, though her voice trembled. "He good, he family." The words hit harder than any weapon. Even the soldier hesitated. The air crackled with tension. Then, another voice crackled through the soldier's earpiece. "Command says abort mission. Immediate return. Extraction ships inbound." The man cursed it under his breath and lowered his gun. "Fine," he growled. "You keep the girl, but if she steps off this dirt rock, she's ours." They turned and marched into the jungle without another word. The sound of their ship lifting into the sky echoed for miles, and then it was quiet again. Yuli slowly turned. Her eyes were full, but not with fear. With trust. "You stay," she whispered. Ryan looked at her, tired, muddy, bruised, but smiling, always. She hugged him tightly, her tiny arms wrapping around his middle. He knelt and hugged her back. They didn't need words now. They had something stronger. That night, under the stars, Ryan built a new fire. Yuli curled up beside him, her small head resting against his side. He looked down and asked softly, "What now?" She pointed at the stars. "Find tribe." He nodded. "Together." She pointed at her heart. "You. Mine." Ryan chuckled. "Yours?" Yuli nodded seriously. "My human." He laughed fully this time. "All right then, I'm your human." And she smiled, a real smile, not scared. Not forced. But warm. Because once she thought humans were monsters. She thought they would eat her. But one human had changed everything. He didn't just protect her, he became her family. Yuli's eyes were wide with terror, but she wasn't looking at the storm. She wasn't looking at the fire. She was looking at something behind Ryan. Something in the darkness. Something big. Ryan noticed her face go pale. Her hand gripped his sleeve tightly. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. He turned around slowly. And then he saw it. 2. Glowing yellow eyes, high above the ground, staring at them through the rain. Massive creature stood between the trees. It was 8 feet tall, with thick black fur soaked from the storm, long arms, sharp claws, and a mouth that opened just enough to show jagged, blood-stained teeth. Yuli whispered one word in her language. "Verena." Ryan didn't know what it meant, but he didn't need a translator. This thing was a hunter, and it had found them. Ryan stood up quickly and grabbed a burning branch from the fire. He held it out like a weapon. "Stay back," he growled. "You're not touching her." The beast stepped forward. Yuli pulled herself back into the tree hollow, hands over her mouth, tears in her eyes. Verena growled, low and deep, shaking. "The wet leaves." Ryan shouted and waved the fire. The beast paused. Then it lunged. Ryan jumped to the side, falling into the mud. The firebrand flew from his hand and landed far away. Yuli screamed. The Verena spun toward her hiding spot. She couldn't move, her body locked in place. Ryan got to his feet, blood on his lip, and ran straight at the monster. He picked up a rock, the size of his fist, and slammed it against the beast's side. You want someone to eat? Try me. The Varana howled in pain and turned its attention back to him. That was all Yuli needed. She crawled out of the hollow and grabbed the burning stick from the ground. It hurt her hands, but she didn't let go. She ran toward the beast from behind and jabbed the fire into its back. The creature howled again, spinning wildly. Ryan tackled it from the front, yelling with all his strength. Together tiny Yuli and tall Ryan, they forced the beast back into the trees. It roared once more, then vanished into the jungle shadows. Silence returned. Rain still fell, but the danger was gone. Ryan dropped to the ground, gasping for breath. Yuli rushed to his side, ignoring her burns. She grabbed his face, panicked. Okay. Ryan smiled, weakly, still in one piece. She hugged him tight, not because she was scared, but because she had almost lost the first being who ever protected her. She felt his heartbeat against her cheek. He was real. He stayed, and he risked everything. For her, Varana, she said again. Hunter. Eat small ones, Ryan nodded. Not this time. She helped him sit up, then covered him with the blanket. You saved me, he whispered. Yuli shook her head. No, you saved me. I save back. They both smiled, and in that cold, wet jungle, with wounds and burns and shaking bones, they laughed together, not because they weren't afraid, but because they had each other. The symbols were still there, carved deep into a standing stone. Yuli's tiny fingers touched the marks, the same curved lines her people used. Her chest tightened. This is it, she whispered. My tribe. They were here. Ryan stood beside her, wiping sweat from his brow. The jungle had grown thicker the deeper they went, and the trail had nearly vanished. But Yuli had remembered. Every turn, every rock, every vine-covered path. She was small, but her memory was sharp. He watched her carefully. This place meant something to her. She stepped forward. Slowly. The stone markers increased. One by one. In rows, she walked between them, like a child walking through graves. Ryan followed quietly. Then Yuli stopped. The jungle opened into a clearing, and everything went silent. Too silent. No wind. No birds. No bugs. Just stillness. Before them stood the remains of her village, round huts made from wood and leaves, broken tools scattered in the dirt, burn marks on the ground, but no people, not a single one. Yuli stared. She took one shaky step forward, then another. She reached the center of the camp and dropped to her knees. A blanket, small, worn and blue, like her, lay under a broken bench. She picked it up and held it close to her chest. It was hers. She remembered it. Her mother had made it. Tears filled her eyes. Ryan crouched beside her. He looked around slowly, feeling a heavy chill in the air. Where is everyone? He asked, but Yuli didn't answer. She couldn't. Her heart felt like it was breaking all over again. Then she noticed something. Footprints. Not alien footprints. Boots. Large, heavy. Human. She stood up and followed them. Her hand touched Ryan's arm. She pointed down. He knelt, studied the prints. Military issue, he muttered. Not mine. Someone else was here. Yuli nodded quickly and pointed to the ground, several long scratches in the dirt. Struggle marks. She looked up at Ryan, eyes wide. They took them, she said slowly. Not gone, taken. Ryan's face darkened. Taken by who? But in her language, she had no word for answer. She simply pointed at the sky. Ships. Suddenly, behind them, something cracked in the trees. A sharp snapping sound. Ryan pulled Yuli behind him. He drew his tool, half knife, half scanner, and held it out. Silence again. Then movement. Not an animal. A small blinking light near the ground. Ryan stepped forward, reached down, and pulled out a piece of metal. It had a symbol on it. One Yuli didn't recognize, but Ryan did. His face turned pale. This is Terran trade command gear, he said. Yuli looked up, confused. Terran? Humans, he said softly. My people. His voice sounded cold and angry. Yuli shook her head. No, you help. Not same. But Ryan wasn't listening. His mind was racing. Why would human soldiers come here? Why would they take alien villagers? Yuli grabbed his arm again. She looked into his eyes. I find tribe, she said. You help? Ryan stared at her. Then slowly nodded. I'll help you find them, Yuli, he said. Even if I have to face my own kind to do it. She smiled weakly. And for the first time, she believed they weren't just two lost souls in a jungle anymore. They were a team. And together, they would uncover the truth, even if it meant going against everything Ryan once knew. She wasn't dreaming. Yuli woke with the taste of cooked roots still on her tongue and the smell of smoke in her nose. The blanket was still over her. The fire was now just soft orange embers. But the human was gone. Gone. Her eyes flew open. Her tiny hands gripped the ground. Her heart raced. Did he leave? Did he get tired of waiting and go hunt someone else? She crawled to the tent's edge and peeked outside, and then she froze. He was standing a few steps away, back turned, shirt off, washing blood off his arm in a small stream. The same arm she had bitten. Yuli stared at the bite mark. She had done that, but he didn't punish her. He didn't yell or tie her up. Why? She ducked back into the tent as fast as she could, confused and afraid again, not of him hurting her, but of something she didn't understand. Kindness, that she didn't know what to do with it. A few minutes later, Ryan returned. His arm was wrapped with a clean cloth. He smiled when he saw her awake. Good morning, he said softly, crouching down. Yuli didn't know what those words meant, but his voice was calm. Not like the deep growls of traders or the loud commands of warriors. He placed something beside her on a flat rock. A small round ball. It was soft, made from plant threads. A toy. She tilted her head. Ryan rolled it to her. She flinched at first. But when it stopped beside her, she slowly picked it up. It didn't bite. Didn't break. Just soft. She rolled it back. He laughed again, clapping once. Yes, that's it. Yuli blinked. She had no idea what she was doing, but his joy made her chest feel strange, warm, light. They kept rolling the ball back and forth for a few minutes. And then she asked the question that had been growing inside her. Why? Ryan tilted his head. Why what? She pointed at the bandage on his arm, then at herself. Then whispered again, why? He was quiet for a second. Then he pointed at his chest and said, good heart. Yuli looked at him, confused. He placed his hand over his heart and said it again. Good heart. Then he pointed at her, small, but strong. She understood. Only a little. But it was enough. He wasn't helping her because she was useful. She wasn't strong or fast or big. He helped her just because his heart said so. No one had ever done that before. No one had ever called her strong. She had always been the smallest, the weakest, the one left behind. Yuli looked down. Her tiny fingers played with the ball, and then very slowly she said, thank. Rian's eyes lit up. Thank you? She nodded. Double quotes, thank you. It was the first human phrase she had ever spoken fully. He smiled wide and nodded. You're welcome, Yuli. She didn't reply, but a small smile touched the corner of her lips. Before she looked away, then suddenly, she stood up. Wobbly, weak, but standing. Ryan quickly reached to help, but she raised a hand to stop him. No, she said. Then pointed toward the trees. He understood. You want to go? She nodded once. She had something to show him. Something he needed to see. Asterisk. Yuli had never walked so far in her life. But she didn't stop. Not even when her legs trembled. Not even when her tiny feet began to bleed. She just kept walking forward because she remembered something. A mark. A tall stone near her tribe's trail. Maybe, just maybe, it was still there. Ryan followed close behind, carrying the tent and food on his back. He didn't complain once. Even when the thick alien vines scraped his arms, or the giant bugs buzzed near his head. "Slow down, Yuli," he said softly. "You need rest." But she didn't listen. She only looked back once, pointed forward, and said, "This way." Ryan nodded. "All right, lead the way, little guide." For hours they moved through the jungle. The trees began to thicken. The wind picked up. The sky turned darker, clouds spinning in strange shapes. Yuli stopped and stared at the sky. She knew what this meant. A storm was coming, a bad one. Ryan looked up too. "That doesn't look good." A sudden crack of thunder made the ground shake. Then came the rain. Heavy, cold, sharp, like needles. Yuli gasped as water poured over her tiny body. Her skin wasn't built for this kind of storm. Her knees gave out. She collapsed. Ryan rushed to her. "Yuli," she looked up at him, coughing, shaking hard. "Too cold," she whispered. Without wasting a second, Ryan wrapped her in his coat, scooped her up in his arms, and ran. He didn't know where he was running. He just knew he had to find shelter. Fast. The trees shook. Branches fell. Wind howled like monsters in the dark. Ryan's boots slipped in the mud, but he kept going. Yuli opened her eyes and saw his face above her. So close. So serious. She panicked. She didn't understand. Why was he holding her like this? Was this it? Was he finally going to eat her? "No," she cried, and bit down on his hand hard. Ryan yelled but didn't drop her. Instead, he hugged her tighter and shouted through the wind, "I'm not gonna hurt you." He kept running, bleeding, freezing, holding her like something precious. He found a large fallen tree with a hollow under it, just big enough to crawl inside. He ducked in and placed Yuli down gently. She was shivering badly now, her teeth clicking. Ryan started a fire with shaking hands. "Just hold on," he whispered, even though she couldn't understand. "Just hold on." The fire came to life after many tries. Yuli's blue skin slowly turned less pale. Her breathing eased. She opened her eyes. Ryan was sitting beside her. His hand was bleeding from her bite. His lips were blue from the cold, but he was smiling. "Safe now," he said. Yuli stared at his hand. Her bite mark was deep. She had hurt him, but he still carried her, still protected her, still smiled. She crawled slowly toward him, pulled the blanket over his shoulders, and sat beside him. She reached out, touched his hurt hand, and said softly, "Sorry." Ryan's eyes widened in surprise. Then he laughed. Apology accepted. He gave her a small piece of dried food. She took it, and for the first time, she didn't hesitate. She ate next to him, quiet, calm. No fear. The storm raged outside, but inside that little shelter, something had changed. She no longer saw him as a monster. She saw him as something else. Something rare. A protector. The night was cold. The sky above was filled with 2 moons and millions of stars. Deep inside the alien jungle, everything was quiet except for one small sound. A tiny creature, no taller than a chair, was hiding inside a hollow tree. She was a mini alien girl named Yuli. Her skin was soft and blue, her eyes big and glowing. Her small hands hugged her knees as she shivered alone in the dark. She was scared, very scared. She hadn't eaten in 2 days. Her tribe had run when the sky burned with fire and strange ships came. She had been too slow, too small to follow. And now she was all alone. Suddenly she heard it. Crunch. Crunch. Something was stepping on the dry jungle leaves. Heavy boots. The sound of a large creature. It was coming closer. Yuli's breath stopped. She knew what it was. A human. She had heard stories from the elders. Big, dangerous creatures from the stars. They hunted. They captured. They ate anything smaller than them. She closed her eyes, trying not to cry. She thought, if I stay very still, maybe it won't find me. But it was too late. The footsteps stopped right outside her tree. A shadow moved. A hand reached out. And then light. A beam from a human flashlight lit up her face. Yuli let out a tiny cry and covered her head with her arms. The human looked surprised. "Whoa, what the?" His voice was deep but soft. He knelt down and moved the flashlight away from her eyes. Yuli peeked between her fingers. The human was tall and had strange brown hair on his face. His skin was pale. He wore a jacket and had a bag on his back. His name was Ryan, but she didn't know that yet. He raised both hands slowly and said, "It's okay. I'm not gonna hurt you." But Yuli didn't believe him. Her tiny body trembled like a leaf. She pressed herself deeper into the tree, making herself as small as possible. The human frowned. He looked at her with confusion. "Are you lost?" Of course, Yuli didn't answer. She didn't know his words. She just stared at him with wide, scared eyes. Ryan slowly opened his bag and pulled out something round. It was a soft, sweet fruit he had picked earlier. He placed it gently on the ground in front of the tree. "There. Food," he said, backing away a little. Yuli's stomach growled. She hadn't eaten since the last moon. But she still didn't move. What if it was a trick? What if he wanted her to come out, just to grab her? Ryan sighed and sat down on a rock nearby. He didn't come closer. He just watched her with kind eyes. Minutes passed. The jungle stayed quiet. Finally, hunger won. Yuli crawled forward slowly, keeping her eyes on him. She grabbed the fruit with her little hands and pulled it back into the tree. Then, she took a small bite. It was good. Her eyes filled with tears, not from fear, but from the taste, sweetness, warmth, life. Ryan saw her chewing and smiled gently. "Good," he said. "Eat." After a few bites, Yuli's body relaxed just a little. But her eyes never left the human. She didn't trust him. Not yet. Then, suddenly, her vision spun. Everything felt heavy. The fruit fell from her hand. Her little body dropped to the ground. Ryan jumped up. Hey, what's wrong?" He rushed over and caught her before she hit the hard roots. Yuli was barely awake. Too much fear. Too much hunger. No strength left. She looked up at the human with half-closed eyes. His arms were strong, warm. She thought, "Is this when he eats me?" But instead of hurting her, he wrapped her in a blanket. He carried her gently like a baby bird. He whispered, "You're okay. I've got you." Yuli didn't understand the words, but she understood the feeling. Warmth, softness, safety. She didn't know if it was real or just a dream. Her eyes slowly closed, and for the first time in days, she slept. A sudden warmth touched her cold skin. Yuli opened her eyes with fear in her chest. She was not in the tree anymore. She was in a strange place under a big gray tent, lying on soft cloth. A fire crackled nearby. The air smelled like smoke and sweet fruit. Her small hands were covered in a blanket. Something warm touched her forehead. A giant shadow leaned over her. The human. She froze. His hand was on her head, wiping her with a wet cloth. He looked calm, but to her, he was still a monster. Is this how he checks the meat before cooking it? She thought. Her heart began to race. Her whole body tensed, and in one sudden movement, she tried to jump up and run. But her legs were weak. She fell back. The human quickly held her gently. "Hey, it's okay, little one. You fainted. You need rest." She didn't understand his words, but she saw his lips move. She saw his eyes. They didn't look angry. They didn't look hungry. They looked worried. Yuli turned her head and tried to crawl backward, pushing herself toward the edge of the tent. But the human didn't stop her. He just moved back and gave her space. He pointed to the fire and then to the food he had placed on a small tray beside her: 2 berries, a piece of cooked root, and a little cup of water. Then he said one word very slowly: "Friend." Yuli didn't move. Her breathing was fast. Her little blue fingers gripped the blanket tightly. She had never heard that word before. But the way he said it made her pause. The human sat down far from her, not turning his back, but not reaching out either. He took a piece of fruit from his own pocket and started eating it slowly. Looking up at the stars through the tent's clear top, Yuli watched him like a wild animal watches a bigger one. Minutes passed. He didn't come closer. He didn't try to grab her. He just sat there. The fire cracked softly. The night was cold again. Yuli looked at the small cup of water. Her lips were dry. Very dry. She waited. Waited to see if it was a trick, but he didn't move. She slowly reached forward and took the cup. She sipped it. Then took a bigger sip. It was clean. Safe. Her hands shook, but she drank it all. Then she touched the cooked root with her fingers. Still warm, smelled strange, but not bad. She looked at the human again. Still not moving. Still just watching the stars. She bit it. It was soft and filled her empty belly with warmth. She blinked. He didn't want to eat her. He was feeding her. Why? Why would a giant like him help someone so small, so useless? She wanted to ask, but she didn't have the words. She only knew a few human sounds from the traders who once visited her planet. So she tried one. She pointed at herself and said, "Yuli." The human turned slowly. His eyes lit up with surprise and something else. Joy. He smiled and pointed at himself. "Ryan." Yuli looked at him. "Run?" He laughed lightly. Close enough. She didn't know why, but his laugh didn't feel scary. It felt warm, like the fire. Still, she didn't smile. Not yet. She curled back under the blanket. This time not from fear, but from confusion. She peeked at him once more before closing her eyes again. Was this all a dream? Or were the stories wrong? Maybe, just maybe. This human was different.